Frank Stilwell, the ruthless outlaw with a heart of stone. You'll be thrust into the life of a dangerous criminal in the Wild West. Brace yourself. We'll dive deep into the life of Frank Stilwell, the unstoppable criminal. There was nothing ordinary about Stilwell's upbringing. He entered the world in 1856, when authorities and criminals alike often blurred definitions of right and wrong. Stilwell had a rather unconventional upbringing than other American youngsters, shaping him into a bitter, violent criminal. He began his career in crime at an early age and became notorious for participating in heists of banks, thefts of animals, and even murder. His participation in the famous shootout at the Oak Corral and his association with the deadly Clanton gang further solidified his position in Western mythology. But Stilwell's story is about more than just violence and anarchy. He had a frustrating past, full of betrayal and personal sorrow, that was buried under his rough appearance. It was Stilwell's complexity that drew so much attention to him. Are you prepared to learn more about Frank Stilwell, the real outlaw? Come on this adventure as we reveal the truth about the infamous outlaw with a tangled past. Early life, the upbringing and influences that shaped Stilwell's character. Frank Stilwell had a rough past as a kid before he became the legendary bandit he is today. Stilwell experienced tragedy and suffering as a child. His birthplace was a remote community in Illinois. After his mother died, his father raised him and his brothers. Stilwell was driven to stir trouble despite his hardships. Due to his disruptive conduct, he was expelled many times until he finally decided to stop attending. As Stilwell matured, his defiance only intensified. What made him leave the East Coast and turn to a life of crime in the Wild West? Several have blamed his troubled background and alleged lack of parental direction. Stilwell's background in the West, where justice was typically determined by those with the most excellent ammunition, may have shaped his worldview and prone him to crime. Stilwell's childhood shaped his adulthood. We'll explore Stilwell's character and how he became a criminal. It could be ironic. Life of crime. Stilwell's transition into a full-time criminal and his most notorious crimes. Frank Stilwell eventually became known as one of the West's worst criminals. His criminal career started with cattle rustling and robbery, but he quickly moved on to more severe crimes, including murder and rail robbery. Stilwell met several Clanton gang members through his illegal operations. Law enforcement targeted him due to his relationships with them. Stilwell killed Morgan Earp, one of the Oak Corral fighters. Stilwell was widely suspected of murder despite never being charged. Stilwell's illegal business was dangerous yet fascinating. He ran from the law and took risks. The Clanton gang, Stilwell's association with the infamous group of criminals. Frank Stilwell was known to run with a rough crowd, and one of the most infamous groups he associated with was the Clanton gang. This gang of intruders, headed by Clanton, was notorious for its bloodthirstiness and violence. Stilwell met some of the most infamous criminals of his day via his involvement with the Clanton gang, including Billy the Kid and John Wesley Hardin. One of the most feared gangs in the West, its activities ranged from livestock rustling to robbery. Stilwell joined this bunch of criminals, but why? Why did he join the Clanton gang? Was it for freedom or something else? You may have wished to try something new or share their ambition. We'll explore the Clanton gang's history and infamy as part of Stilwell's Clanton ties. To experience what it was like to be an outlaw in their team in the Wild West, we'll examine their misdeeds. The Tombstone shootout, Stilwell's role in the infamous gunfight at the Oak Corral. Tombstone's gunfight at the Oak Corral made Frank Stilwell famous. What occurred on this monumental day? Stilwell, a member of the Clanton gang, opposed the Earp brothers' efforts to tame Tombstone. On October 26, 1881, these two gangs fought in an empty lot outside the Oak Corral, deciding the dispute. Stilwell created the scene for the shootout, even though he wasn't there. Fugitive years. Stilwell's time on the run from the law and his continued criminal activities. Frank Stilwell became a wanted man after the gun battle at the Oak Corral. He fled society and remained underground for a long time. Stilwell persisted in his illicit operations, despite the fact that he was on the run. He was murdered while on the lam after being engaged in many robberies. The authorities began targeting him as word spread that he was a dangerous criminal. Stilwell had a lot of danger and uncertainty throughout the years on the run. He was always on the run, trying to escape capture by police. He realized he had to lie and network to survive. We'll investigate Stilwell's secret life and his struggles. The final showdown, Stilwell's ultimate demise and the events leading up to it. Frank Stilwell was brutally murdered in 1882 due to his dangerous acts. But what brought it to an end, if anything? Years after evading capture, the man who fought with Stilwell at the Oak Corral was none other than Wyatt Earp. After Morgan Earp was killed, Earp became fixated on tracking down Stilwell and seeing him face justice. Stilwell changed his name on the run and moved around before settling in Tucson, Arizona. On March 20, 1882, Wyatt Earp and his squad shot him down. As we go into Stilwell's last battle, we'll also look at what ultimately led to his demise. We will look into his capture and the circumstances surrounding his sad death. Legacy: Stilwell's place in Western folklore and how he is remembered today. Frank Stilwell lived just a few decades, yet his influence will last a century. His narrative made him one of the Wild West's most notorious outlaws. Stilwell became recognized due to his illegal activities and affiliations with other notorious criminals. Is Frank Stilwell real? Do Western historians and contemporaries remember him? Stilwell leaves a complicated legacy. Some recall him as a dangerous criminal. However, many believe his upbringing and the harsh Western world shaped him. We'll examine Stilwell's legacy in Western mythology as we learn more about him. Lessons learned: what we can learn from Frank Stilwell's life and era. Frank Stilwell's life was dangerous and illegal. Any lessons from his experience? Law and order are essential lessons. The anarchy of the West paved the way for Stilwell's life of crime and brutality. Criminals like Stilwell thrive when there is a weak commitment to justice and weak law enforcement. Another nugget: upbringing and environment strongly impact life outcomes. Stilwell's childhood and the harsh West shaped his adulthood. This is not an explanation for his crimes, but an admission that there are frequently other circumstances. Stilwell emphasizes the importance of self-determination. He chose a violent, criminal life against the obstacles. Fact versus fiction: separating myth from reality in the story of Frank Stilwell. How accurate are Frank Stilwell's life stories? Like many historical individuals, reality and fiction mix with time. One such instance is Stilwell's presence in the Oak Corral. However, he wasn't present. Many assume that he played a significant role in the conflict based on his connections to the Clanton gang. Stilwell has also been connected to Billy the Kid and John Wesley Hardin, which adds to the confusion. Stilwell is suspected of working with the Clanton gang, but not the other notable groups. We will try our best to separate Frank Stilwell's life facts from his fiction as we investigate his past. Remembering the Wild West: exploring the history and culture of the American frontier. The saga of Frank Stilwell's life hardly registers as an afterthought in the larger narrative of the American West. For example, what was it like to work and play on the American frontier? How did the advantages and disadvantages of living there affect the locals? Change and development occurred rapidly in the Wild West. Many settlers pushed westward across the continent during this time for better lives. Many lives were lost in the competition for control of the country and its wealth. However, the Wild West was also a time of creativity and new ideas. It was a time of revolutionary study and technological progress, when people pushed humanity to its absolute boundaries in every possible way. We will discover more about the indigenous people, cowboys, and settlers who have all called the American frontier home as we explore its history and present. We'll analyze their struggles and triumphs as they learned to thrive in the frontier. Join us as we travel across time to learn more about the Wild West. We appreciate your company as we explore Frank Stilwell's life and the history of the Wild West. This look at one of the most renowned rebels of the American frontier is curious, and we hope you like it. If you enjoy this video, subscribe to our channel to never miss a new upload. Please share your ideas and questions below. Keep digging into the past and reading the tales that have created our modern world until we meet again.